Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3400 and 3648. Today's date is October 18, 2025. It's been almost like morning at 7:13 a.m. Alright, let's just jump into the question. Okay, yeah. Okay, question is, what if printing press was invented in ancient Greece? Oh, that is really cool thing, by the way. Okay, first of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? This is what if question. Why am I asking? What if question is always really interested way to give the answer. It kind of like somebody force you to think about that particular. It's kind of like somebody force you to create that reality regarding about how much knowledge that you have. Okay. Disclaimer: the information that I am trying to tell you is not exactly right or is not exactly wrong. It is just my opinion. It's my own thought process. It's raw. It's unfiltered. Okay. So don't seek this information like it's the information that I'm trying to tell you is not verified. It's unverified. Okay. Yeah. So be advised and don't take this information very seriously. If you need this information, go to the internet. You have multiple sources. Okay. I'm just trying to giving my opinion. All right. Okay. The question is that what if printing press was invented in ancient Greece? Okay. This is very really good question. Okay. Yeah. Before I need to kind of like talk about this thing, let's just talk about the printing press. Okay, yeah. Let's just talk about why we have printing press. Okay, yeah. So people like basically is this thing that if I wanted to share some sort of idea to someone else, what kind of like assembly way that I should supposed to do that thing? How do I supposed to share my idea? The first is that communication, right? Like the if I talk with somebody or things like that, then I would share my idea, right? But the problem is that when you try to share your idea through communication, you might gonna share maybe one or two or maybe three, or maybe let's just say like 100 or maybe 1,000. But 1,000 is also kind of like it's not too much. You cannot able to kind of like share your idea to the 1,000, but still you might kind of like share your idea through the communication by at least like 100 people. Okay, not more than 100 people, because no, it's not possible. Yeah, you could possible, it's not really that, but I'm just trying to tell you just a communication, like you are using just your mouth. Okay, yeah, not using anything. So in that particular case, yeah, you might kind of like share your idea with only 100 people, but that is also kind of a disadvantage too. Okay, yeah, means like that those 100 people should supposed to be exist at one place at one time, and obviously they need to kind of like a simply pay attention for kind of like the word that you are saying and stuff like that. Okay, so basically is this thing grabbing attention and kind of like simply having communication with all those people is not really possible. Okay, yeah. So if I wanted to share some sort of my idea with the millions of people, you cannot do that thing. Yeah, you through communication is the not the way that you could do this thing. So how do you supposed to share my idea with someone else? Well, you have to share your idea when you wrote your idea at somewhere, and those ideas, whatever that wrote, like basically you wrote the book, then someone wrote the book, then probably that particular person get your idea, right? So we have to kind of like make a lot of books, right? But that is also challenging too. Okay, what is actually challenging? If I wrote a book, let's just say I wrote maybe 200 pages of book. Okay, yeah, and include all my ideas and thought process and everything. If I wanted to share this kind of like a piece of book with a millions of people, what do I have to do? I have to make millions of copy of that writing. And how do I supposed to do that? By writing. Okay, a manual writing. And this is far more like a lengthy process. Like literally just like that, you need a kind of like a person who could write 200 books probably. It's, I don't know when it's done, when it's gonna happen. It's really not. So what exactly is this thing happen? Like the early civilization, the early humans are kind of like a simply way they are kind of like a sharing their thought process through the communication, passed through generation by generation. That is a one thing. Yes, writing is invented. Okay, yeah, writing is invented and people are kind of like writing stuff, but they won't be able to share their idea with peoples and things like that because a lot of constraint. Okay, there is no kind of like a something that key a printing press book or things like that. Okay, yeah. So whatever the kind of like idea that you have, you just wrote it, and probably might be kind of like a some next generation might kind of continue this kind of like a some information or things like that. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that key this writing a book, like basically there is a person who write the book like a 200 times or millions time. This is not possible. Okay, so that's why most of the kind of like some information early human civilization are actually passed through generation by generation. That's it. Okay, yeah. Now let's talk about Greece. Okay, yeah. Greece, na? Yeah, wait. Yes, Greece, ancient Greece. Why this question mostly focus on ancient Greece? What exactly is this thing happening over there? Okay, the human civilization are going through kind of like a same as it is. Like basically the people who kind of like simply wake up, do their job, they had a slavery, they had empire, they have, it's literally common in all around the world, the farming and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. But Greece has something very different. By the way, I am like I'm living in India. India is a democratic, independent company, independent country. Okay, yeah. Like basically, is this thing, as a citizen, I am a citizen of this country, and I am allowed to say whatever I want to say. I wanted to do whatever I wanted to do. It gives me freedom and these things. Okay, yeah. Now this kind of like some democratic kind of like thought process is actually established in Greece. Okay, yeah. Like Greece is the first country in all around the world who thought that key in the government or in any kind of like a empire, um, people's contribution is very much essential, because at that time people contribution is almost negligible. Means like that key the people who kind of like a simply run the country like a empire or things like that, they just control everything. There is no contribution of the people and things like that. But Greece is the only one country who has a kind of like a simply understanding that democratic. They understand that ki people's law should supposed to be executed in the uh, while running the kind of like country. Okay. Another thing is that there is a lot of kind of like a some innovation is actually happening in ancient Greece. Pythagoras. Okay, yeah. Then Aristotle. Okay, Aristotle kind of like a First of all, what is actually Pythagoras? Okay, so Pythagoras is a kind of like a somebody the ancient mathematician. Okay, yeah, who invented the Pythagoras theorem. Now, what exactly is this thing? What is actually that? Now, in mathematics term, okay, yeah, a Pythagoras theorem is very much essential for kind of understanding the height and kind of like a something. I don't know. I'm not really sure about exactly what exactly Pythagoras has invented. Okay, yeah. Like basically is this thing at the fourth or like basically at the maybe seventh or eighth standard, I kind of like somebody knows Pythagoras theorem. A square is equal to b square plus c square probably. Okay, yeah. But beyond that, I'm not really sure what is actually purpose of that. What is actually that it meant. Okay, but probably these are calculation are kind of like simply utilized for calculating a lot of things like objects and bigger objects and things like that. Yeah, like basically Pythagoras theorem are much more essential for understanding that our earth is a sphere, is not flat probably. But Pythagoras is just kind of like gives the theorem, okay, give the kind of like mathematical thought process, okay, yeah. Then Aristotle, okay, yeah, Aristotle is also kind of like a person who kind of like somebody give a thought process that key Earth is not flat, Earth is a sphere, okay, yeah. By the way, at that time they don't, no one is actually believe them, but still, um, ancient Greece is a kind of like a something lot of innovation is actually happened, specifically in battlefield, okay, yeah, like basically is this thing that key uh, not battlefield, like basically at that time Sparta and other kind of like a civilization are really good at battlefield too, okay, yeah. But the way that like I don't know how do I supposed to explain this thing, okay, yeah. At that time discipline was really essential in a kind of like a, any warfare, okay, yeah. Like you have a kind of like a some discipline, you could kind of like a simply execute, okay. If you have a discipline, then you could kind of like simply um, work in kind of like a battlefield or kind of like a work in army or things like that, okay, yeah. Greece has a kind of like a invented, ancient Greece has a kind of like a invented lot of tactics about the battlefield and stuff like that. I'm not really sure, but probably, yeah. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that the ancient Greece has a kind of like a lot of information. There are so many civilizations have a lot of information regarding about every possible scenario. Like basically, Islamic Islamic kind of like something religions. They Islamic religion, the Islamic followers and things like that. They are kind of like somebody invented algebra probably. Okay, I'm not really sure. Yeah, but algebra is actually come from the Islamic world. Okay, yeah. Then Indian civilization kind of like somebody Aryabhatta who kind of like somebody invented zero, okay. Then Chinese civilization are kind of like somebody improve lot of things, okay, yeah. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that ki there are so many civilization are kind of like invented lot of stuff regarding about how we supposed to live the life and kind of like mathematics and things and that and that. Now, regarding about their idea should supposed to share the rest of the world, there is no way. There is no printing machine and things and that and that. Okay. Yeah. Now, if I could imagine that, what if ancient Greece has invented the printing machine, then what would be our world? Now, if the ancient Greece is actually invented the printing machine, this would be very crazy thing. Okay, first of all, let's just say a printing machine is not the kind of like somebody the printing machine that you are kind of like seeing today. Right now we have printer, we have kind of like a somebody Xerox machine that could print like a thousands of pages in couple of minutes, okay, yeah. But this is just a new generation, okay, of printers that we have today. But I'm talking about, let's just say, when the printing machine is actually invented. Printing machine is actually invented in 14th century probably, 1403 in Germany, maybe, I'm not really sure, but yeah. And ancient Greece was established before the Jesus. Okay, yeah, before the Jesus, or maybe, yeah, probably maybe more than 2000 year ago. Okay, so there is no way that printing machine should supposed to be exist at the time of Jesus. Okay, yeah. But still, is this thing, if the printing machine was kind of like a somebody invented in the ancient Greece, then this might be kind of like a somebody very crazy thing happened. The idea will the Greece will kind of like a something printed on book, and those books are kind of like a sell to the millions of copy would be sell, and people would kind of like a simply being really educated and things like that. Like, let me tell you one thing, okay. If new iPhone is actually launched, all the rest of the world knows that ki iPhone is launched and things and that. How these things actually happen? By internet, right? By internet, kind of like a simply we all knows that ki iPhone is actually launched. Apple is actually launched new iPhone and things like that. Okay, yeah. So this is gonna same thing happen, that ki the ancient Greece will kind of like a simply launch a book and things like that. People will might gonna listen to them and things like that and stuff like that. Because ancient Greece is kind of like a simply birth to lot of kind of like a simply ancient thought process, the democracy, the education, the knowledge, the mathematics, and things, and that and that. Now, if the ancient Greece invented the printing machine, then probably is this thing that ki who at that time what exactly happened? Okay, whoever the control the printing machine controls the power, actually control the soft power. Now, what exactly is this that? So let's just imagine, okay, that ki iPhone is actually launched, like basically Apple is actually launch a new iPhone. It kind of like somebody advertise all around the world, and every people knows that ki Apple is actually launch a new iPhone. Okay, now this is just a common tactic that we knew it, because we already knew that ki Apple company will gonna launch iPhone every single year, and that is just a they are kind of like a something, yeah, like a way that they are doing, yeah, it's not that kind of like a something a revolutionary kind of like a stuff. Okay, yeah, but what I'm trying to tell you, if the ancient Greece is kind of like a something book was kind of like established and kind of like a something share to the rest of the world and things like that, people might gonna seek that book, people just wanted to read that book and things like that. Now people, if the people wanted to read that book and things like that, automatically it create the soft power according to the ancient Greece. Okay, yeah, soft power means like that ki people might have respect regarding about the Greece, and people might think that ki ancient Greece is really good civilization, they have all the rights regarding about the democratic uh, thought process, then education, mathematics, then astrophysics. Okay, yeah, so probably is this thing every civilization are kind of like a seek for that information, that ki yes, that ki ancient Greece has a kind of like a some very good knowledge regarding about that. So we should supposed to be kind of like execute the same knowledge. We could supposed to be kind of like a somebody share our books or create our knowledge or things like that. So basically, other countries are also wanted to do the same thing too. Other civilization are also wanted to do the thing, to do the same thing too. Other civilization are kind of like somebody wanted to kind of like somebody write a books, create a new idea and things and that, which led to kind of like somebody improve our knowledge and kind of like somebody improve the overall system. Okay, yeah, because because is this thing na ki how do I supposed to explain? It's very hard to explain right now. It's not really hard to explain, but it just like that na ki ancient Greece has a kind of like a lot of soft power regarding about from every civilization. Okay, yeah. And if the ancient Greece invented the printing book, then probably other civilization will gonna kind of like invented the printing books too, and they will gonna make lot of books and things like that, which eventually led our civilization to even more uh, progress and things like that. Okay, we might knew, like, let me tell you one thing now. Okay, yeah, the Aristotle, who kind of like a somebody have a thought process, have a kind, they kind of like a mention that ki our earth is a sphere. Okay, by the way, Aristotle is just kind of like, they don't really have any proof, they just have a theory. Okay, that ki Aristotle kind of like a mention that ki our earth is a sphere. Okay, yeah, they don't really have any practical proof or things like that, but they just have just theory. Okay, but when Aristotle have invented this particular stuff, Aristotle didn't really get any kind of like contribution for their invention and things like that. We knew it today is because of that ki we wrote the history, we kind of like listen, we kind of like somebody understand the history, and we kind of like somebody listen the history books and things like that, and that's why we knew that ki Aristotle is kind of like a somebody giving us a theory that ki Earth is a sphere, not a flat. Okay, so but at that time Aristotle doesn't really get any kind of a contribution, doesn't really at all. Yeah, for his invention he just like it's just another day of office, that's it. Okay, yeah, like basically is this thing in today's world, in cricket match, if the India wins World Cup, the entire country will celebrate that ki India wins the World Cup, and when the player comes to the India, those players are kind of like a somebody celebrate very heavily. But in kind of like assembly, in that time, because of very less information, I should travel from person to person. So probably is this thing that ki Aristotle is not really getting that much contribution regarding about what he invented and things like that. Whatever, but like basically, if the ancient Greece is kind of like invented the printing machine, then we might kind of like a something like a progress so early in our life. Okay, might have that key like a basically is this thing that key the iPhone is actually launched in today's world in 2025. You might the like basically the first smartphone is actually came maybe 50 year earlier probably. Okay, we might kind of like invented the nuclear bomb way earlier ago. We might kind of like invented a lot of aesthetics and kind of like a lot of information, like basically might be kind of like we might almost like 100 year ahead of us probably. Okay, yeah, but still, okay. And as also is this thing now, if I'm trying to think about the printing press, it is very hard to imagine that ki ancient Greece actually invented the printing press, because like if I wanted to invented the printing press, I need a metal. By the way, at that time metal was exist, it's not really that ki metal was not exist. Okay, yeah. Okay, let me give you the kind of like a statistic regarding about the how the printing press is actually invented. Okay, yeah. So printing press is a kind of like a something a frame. Okay, in that frame there is a multiple letters. Okay, yeah, A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P P R Q. Okay, at that time it is also really essential that key having a unified language. Okay, yeah, because ancient Greece is not actually kind of like a somebody speaking English language. They are kind of like a speaking Greece. Okay, but whatever the language they are kind of like saying. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that key the in that frame they have to put the all the kind of like a letter in metal. Okay, yeah. Now what is actually happened that key those kind of like a metal plate can be arranged by kind of like assembly, arranged by words or kind of like letter by letter. Okay, yeah. When it arranged, what you have to do is that you just have to take this frame, okay, this metal frame, okay, put into the ink, okay, or whatever kind of like assembly ink at that time. Okay, yeah. And kind of like a stamp, like a basically stamp that rest of the kind of like assembly frame into the page. Okay, yeah. It kind of like somebody just giving the stamp. Okay, like basically the way that we knew that we have kind of like have a stamp, just put the stamp into the paper. This is what exactly is it. Okay, yeah. This is the early stage of the printing machine. Okay, then we kind of like invented a lot of kind of like assembly stuff into this stuff. uh but still is this thing that it's still very hard to believe in this particular topic that ancient Greece actually invented the printing machine, because yeah, the printing machine is not really kind of like a thing that it's very unique. No, it's not. It's a very basic mechanism. Okay, yeah, we just need a kind of like a metal frame and metal letter. We just have to arrange it properly, and that's it probably. But still, if the ancient Greece is actually kind of like invented the printing machine, we might be 100 year ahead of us. Okay, today. Alright, this is it. This is also the information that I'm trying to tell you is not exactly right. It's also not exactly wrong. Okay, it's my opinion, and my opinion might be wrong too. So do not seek for this information is correct. Okay, or do not get this information as a kind of like a very valid or things like that. It's just my opinion. Alright, this is it, and thank you.